This is the Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. Episode 78, recorded October 13th, 2016. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weekly Set Podcast, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. I am your host and editor-in-chief of TV Enthusiast, Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is our keeper of comics here at TV Enthusiast, Will.
Hello.
So today, we are going to be talking about Luke Cage, Supergirl, The Flash, a little bit about Arrow, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Westworld. We're not going to be talking about Scream Queen this week, and we can't talk about Legends of Tomorrow because that's pretty much airing right now.
Yeah, that airs,
as we're doing the podcast.
That airs on Thursdays, and as a consequence, I don't watch stuff live. I watch on the CW app, and that comes out at like 3 a.m. my time on the CW app. So,
and I wouldn't be able to prep for the podcast because we record it at 9 p.m. my time, Pacific time on Thursday, and it's on at 8. So basically, I wouldn't be able to prep for the podcast, get anything set up. So we're going to be a week behind on Legends of Tomorrow when we talk about this. So if you're wondering, why are they talking about last week's Legends of Time, but this week for everything else? It's because of when we record.
Yep, it's
Legends of Tomorrow is just a weird time.
Yeah, it just airs at unfortunate time for us.
So let's kick things off. Now, last week we saved Luke Cage discussion for the end to talk a little bit about it. This time I'm bumping it up to the beginning. We're going to go through in full spoilers about the rest of the season. Last week we talked about episodes 1 through 7, and so now we're talking about episodes 8 through 13. Full spoiler, so you've been warned.
Full spoilers.
So, Will, what did you think about Stryker?
That guy is crazy. He's like, I don't know. I heard like some people like complain like in a show that was like started out as like super grounded with like the exception of Luke Cage having powers. Like then they bring Stryker in and like he's like this cartoon villain. Especially when compared to Cottonmouth, it was like a bit more like a real person, like more nuanced and stuff. And then and then you got Stryker and he comes in, he starts like hamming it up like really bad.
At least we got a different Strokes reference out of it.
Yeah, I really love that part because like in Shades, it came from Shades of all people. And it's like okay, for one thing, Shades in this show, he's just cool. Like he doesn't even try.
Yeah.
But I think that's the essence of cool is that you don't even try at it. He just is. He walks in and he says like anything can come out of his mouth, and you think this guy is like so bad at it. He's so cool. He's a
smooth operator.
He's a smooth operator. he just like he just like yeah. But like out of nowhere he just says and this is like, it just blindsides you when it happens too, because out of like nowhere he just says, "What you talking about, Willis?"
Of course, Stryker being Willis Stryker, so that's the joke. But
that's the joke. And like Stryker, he just like looks at him and he just says, "You think now's the time for jokes?" It's such a bizarre like exchange because like there's the whole tone of the show and like the characters themselves, like you literally don't expect that exchange to happen, but then it does, just because I'm guessing like some writer on the staff like really wanted to get that in there. I mean, when he says it, it doesn't feel natural at all. but that makes it like so funny and so memorable. But yeah,
so you got Willis Stryker, very cartoonish villain, just completely insane, quoting Bible verses constantly.
Quoting Bible verses.
Which ties into his origin with Luke Cage.
Another thing
you find out, they're brothers.
And another thing that I thought was funny was when like Stryker like murdered all those gangland bosses because they weren't like buying his guns. and then he's like, "You buy or you die." It's like, imagine going to Walmart, like if he ran a Walmart or something.
Striker Mart.
Yeah, Striker Mart. It's like 60-inch TV, you buy or you die.
But I don't have enough money. Then you die.
Then you die. Yeah.
I can buy a pair of socks. That's like.
But yeah, his backstory
Yeah,
is we find out that he is actually the half brother of Luke Cage due to
that Luke Cage didn't know was his brother.
Yeah, because due to like infidelity, like Luke Cage grew up, they were like best friends growing up. I guess the fact that they were related was hidden from Luke Cage.
It seems like it's something that Cage should have picked up on, and once Willis says that he's his brother, he kind of like looks back upon his memories and goes, "Oh yeah, that makes sense."
Yeah.
So it's kind of almost like he was willfully ignorant of it,
right?
Because he had all the clues to put that together, but. I think Willis Stryker is just in the forefront of what I think went wrong with this series. It's just, it is that departure from the more grounded story that I think hurts the series.
I mean, yeah, Stryker was definitely more threatening. It came off as more of a threat to Luke Cage than Cottonmouth, but I really thought Cottonmouth was the better villain, the more interesting villain. Because Cottonmouth wasn't like flat out evil, you know? He wasn't like this cartoon villain. He was like a real person, you know, especially when
you could see the machinations around him and how like he was just kind of another cog in the machine. And that, you know, so he wasn't just like this like horrible evil person. He was also caught up in the machine of everything. He didn't want Pops to die.
No.
He didn't want that to happen. You know, he wanted to kind of have a more peaceful situation between these crime bosses and stuff. So he's not at fault for the escalation of everything that happened, you know? I mean, in some ways he is, but if it hadn't been him, that would have just been a power vacuum for somebody else to have been there, you know? So in many ways, he, you know, was somebody that was trying to kind of be the best or I guess the most noble you could be in his position. And then started becoming unhinged by the presence of Luke Cage.
Yeah. Because
and then they took him out and it just went full cartoon buffoonery from there.
Yeah, it went full cartoon buffoonery from there. Yeah, once Diamondback enters the picture. Yeah, they made Diamond because like then they gave Diamondback magic bullets that can hurt Luke Cage, and then they give him like this hammer tech suit that makes him just as strong as Luke Cage. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. When he comes out, like.
It just seemed really silly. One thing, though, is that the later half of the season, at least we got that really cool Method Man cameo.
Oh, yeah.
I think if they had put that stuff in earlier and kind of spaced it out more, and so had a few more moments of levity like that from the beginning of the series, and kind of just played out the series with, like I said this last week, but with like Cottonmouth. I think it's good that Cottonmouth died. I think that kind of makes sense the way it went. But he probably should have died much closer to the end of the season.
That's why
it should have stayed mostly on him. And then it shouldn't have been Diamondback that became the big player after that. It should have been right into Cottonmouth's sister and or cousin or whatever. It should have gone directly to
Mariah.
her and Shades. Yeah, Mariah and Shades.
And her and Shades.
That's what it should have gone to.
Definitely continued to be villains throughout it, but they played second fiddle to Diamondback. It's interesting because the way his season ends, they actually get away with it.
Yeah.
They managed to send Luke Cage back to prison. They managed to, they managed to get Mariah off, released from her charges. They couldn't make it so they can pin anything on her. And then they ride off into the night at the end of the season while Luke Cage is going to jail. And you're kind of thinking, well, this is bullshit.
I did like the ending.
Yeah.
I did like that as an ending, though. I like the tone of that as an ending, that it kind of ends like a tragedy. You have the figure of this witness that's coming forward that, has basically been kind of rather on the selfish side and finally is doing the right thing. And then she gets caught up in it and gets killed. And that happens right towards the very end. And that sets off Luke Cage, being arrested. Well, actually he would have been anyways, but about Mariah getting off, from the crime and Luke Cage going to jail and stuff. And then you have that parting shot of him being taken by car back to the jail. He's not running away or resisting. And you just kind of see Harlem from the car as he's kind of passing through it. And you kind of see how, okay, well, life in Harlem is moving on. Crime's still there. I kind of like that tragic element of it, but I just didn't like the journey from Cottonmouth's death to that point is what I didn't like.
Right.
It just made it kind of feel very disconnected from it. And they just they lost touch with the things that made Luke Cage really work. Like Harlem as a character made Luke Cage really work. And I feel like they lost sight of that until like the very, very end. They started going like, oh yeah, that's right. We put a lot into developing Harlem as a character. Let's do that again. And you didn't really get that again until like the whole kind of scene with all the people wearing the hoodies with the holes in them to
that was
kind of throw off the police.
That was really cool. I like that. The solidarity.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that from the direction that the series had been going in before that I would have wanted more of. And so I liked it, but do you see where I was coming from last week when I was saying that, like, to me, this is the worst of the three series, but at the same time, in many ways, it's like the best executed in certain areas?
Yeah.
Like this could have been the best of the three series, and then it kind of fell short instead.
Right, exactly. I feel like especially its second half, it fell a bit short. It did kind of fall into some cliches that I thought when the series started, I thought like they were consciously sidestepping, in order to tell like a more dramatic story. And then it kind of falls into like, there's this bad guy. We gotta go beat him up.
I do like the kind of twist they put on Luke Cage's origin story kind of stuff, like him having a reason to doubt his wife.
I like that,
kind of showing that like she knew certain things that she said she didn't, and
I like that twist. It was interesting too because like I genuinely didn't see that coming because and then you see the effect. I especially like the line, that Luke Cage has after he realizes it's revealed to him. And the line says, like, he just says, I love the idea of Reva, but like not so much the actual person anymore.
Yeah.
Because
that's like the kind of moment, like when he says that and the kind of scene that came out in, that's the kind of moment that would have made Luke Cage great if it didn't struggle so much in the middle, in the second half, like if it didn't have those issues in the second half, those are the moments that it's similar to like the kind of, using Kilgrave in Jessica Jones as like an allegory for rape,
Right.
Besides that, just the idea of like how mind control is like rape, and the way they played into that in Jessica Jones and really explored that. That's what made that series great, And I think likewise, Luke Cage had these kind of moments that could have made it truly great. And I think that it fell because of that, the whole Diamondback storyline for the most part. I still like it. I still definitely like the series. It's kind of like, oh man, you were so close, just a few little tweaks, a little adjustment, maybe cut the episodes down to like 10 or something, and you would have been right there, But,
right. Yeah, exactly.
So, I'm trying to think if there's some other things I wanted to kind of bring up about it. They had a little Iron Fist reference at the end with, Claire, going and seeing like a poster for a self-defense class being taught by Colleen Wing.
Oh, yeah.
Iron Fist. That was a really cool, quick kind of moment, But that brings me to the character of Claire And that was another thing I really didn't like, though, was the kind of the forced romantic tension between Luke Cage and Claire. Did that work for you at all, or?
No, it didn't work for me at all. Because,
it didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense for, like, Claire and Luke Cage suddenly be, like, romantically involved. I thought that was kind of lame. I was like, can't they just be friends? Like, can't you just, like, have a female protagonist and a male protagonist and not have them, like, be romantically involved?
Exactly. Because it doesn't make sense.
It was a situation, where I liked the relationship as friends, but I just don't like, I just felt that was like way too, come on, that was too cliche.
On one hand, I really like, Luke and Jessica as an item.
Yeah.
And so just could kind of like their different values. So,
that's the
Claire coming in is disruptive to that. Yeah, it's Claire coming in is disruptive to that. Not only because, that's another woman for Luke, but I don't mind that necessarily so much. The area where I mind it is that she's like connected to Luke Cage and Jessica, and it just kind of feels like, oh, now they're gonna have some tension. It's like, you got to create a love triangle that was completely unnecessary.
Yeah,
And for that same reason, I thought that his kind of little tryst with Misty Knight was fine. It worked,
Yeah, it worked.
And I like kind of how that ended. It ended with them not kind of having lingering feelings for each other, It's kind of like they had their moment and that was that,
Yeah, they had their moment, that was it. And like the rest of the season wasn't like trying to push them into like some romantic relationship that didn't really work, It was like
the Luke Cage one was. Yeah,
exactly.
The Claire Temple one was, but so that's, I think, kind of Luke Cage in a nutshell. That's kind of what my review was like too, was saying that there's parts of it that were very well executed. Like, the editing was immaculate. They did cuts on sound that were great. They did lots of things that were really good. They started getting towards like certain messages that they did actually pretty well. I really liked the kind of theme of like needing a bulletproof black man who's unafraid. I really like that. It's timely and it fits and it's powerful. I like the kind of the push towards, that became Luke Cage's superhero costume was like a hoodie, which goes in with all the stuff that's been going on in real life and it fits into the commentary. All of that really good. The portrayal of Cottonmouth and this kind of idea of like organized crime from like the standpoint of somebody trying to do it right, but then becoming kind of unhinged by circumstances. I really liked as well. I even liked when Mariah killed him and kind of like her kind of fit of rage and her change in character for that. I even liked that. But Diamondback was just this weird, it was almost like a Roger Rabbit moment, like here's, a bunch of people in this kind of cold setting and all of a sudden here's a cartoon rabbit going, it's like,
yeah.
What the fuck is that?
Pretty much. Yeah. Exactly.
So that kind of brings us to an end on Luke Cage, unless you had anything else you wanted to say.
No.
But since we have been talking about Luke Cage, last week at New York Comic Con, they finally showed a full trailer, like a real trailer for Iron Fist. They also showed a bunch of footage that we didn't get to watch because we weren't there, but it's been talked about and stuff since. But we both seen the trailer for Iron Fist. So what are your thoughts having seen the trailer?
Looks good. Looks like another winner for Netflix. Yep.
I'm excited for it. I think this is probably the one, from like when the show was first announced, I think this was the one I was most excited for. And, I still am probably the most excited for it. Who knows how it'll turn out. I really liked kind of the direction they were pushing with Luke Cage and then ended up really not liking the second half of it. And that kind of ruined my experience on it just because it got too convoluted and cartoony. But I feel like Iron Fist could go more cartoony and still be okay because like that's kind of the tone it's establishing from the start, it seems.
Right, exactly.
It's kind of going for a more like, I guess unreal or, surreal kind of like vibe right from the beginning. This is Netflix Marvel's step into the magical world in the same way that Ghost Rider is for ABC's Marvel and the same way that Doctor Strange is for the movies.
That's a nice segue that you got there. Speaking of Ghost Rider.
Yeah, let's go right into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
So, another episode, we get, good old Flamey Skull still there.
Flamey Skull.
We didn't get to see him flame out this time.
No, I don't think the special effects
Partially.
I don't think the special effects budget is there for him to flame out every single episode.
Yeah. We got to see it in his eyes. It looked like he was about to, but it was just like a real quick momentary shot. But yeah, in this episode, we got to meet, his brother, who, by the way, is, if you remember, I think it was last week or the week before, I was talking about Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned that there was a character that like just went completely off the deep end in a way that was kind of unrealistic. And then, but they like killed him off. So like they were kind of course correcting. Well, the actor who plays that character is the guy playing his brother.
Oh, okay, interesting. So anyway,
so he wasn't what was wrong with it. So don't worry, he wasn't what was wrong with Fear the Walking Dead. It's the writing, not the actor.
He doesn't like Daisy. So there's that.
He thinks he's protecting his brother, whereas his brother thinks he's protecting him.
Yeah.
And he sees Daisy as like this potential threat because she's an Inhuman.
Exactly.
And all the baggage that comes along with.
Yep, this episode is definitely all about the Inhumans, fear of Inhumans, and that's represented big time by blackouts that happen, by people claiming to be Inhuman terrorists, when really it's just the Watchdogs, which are an anti-Inhuman extremist group. But now it seems like now that they're getting some big time funding and they've gone global.
Yeah. They're all over the place.
They're all over the
Xenophobia knows no bounds.
So they're more so now suddenly they're more of a threat than ever. Amidst this, the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D. is forced to take S.H.I.E.L.D. public earlier than expected. May is cured from her ghost visions, I guess you can call them that. Yeah.
And that was kind of well done, because even with all the blackouts happening in the season, I still was kind of surprised when it blacked out right when they were about to revive her.
I mean, I shouldn't have been, because it's of course.
That's exactly what I mean, though. It's I felt that's what I felt like when I watched it. I'm like, oh, of course. Why didn't I see that coming?
Yeah, exactly. It's I was thinking, pretty darn convenient these people are out there causing blackouts, and at the exact same time that's happening, they need to do this delicate procedure on May that requires them to have electricity for it to go well. And it's
yeah. Which kind of serves the purpose, I think, more than anything, of exposing our little mad scientist secret, at least in part, to Simmons.
Yes. Yeah, because he takes the power core out of the life model decoy he made that he's trying to hide from S.H.I.E.L.D. But he takes the power core and he uses it to power the defibrillator so that Simmons can revive May. But again, that's risky, because he just passes this is something I've been working on. It's okay, but if they start to ask questions about it.
it planted a little seed in Simmons' mind that's going to get her kind of questioning him. You can see kind of that development already lining up. But you mentioned the blackouts going on. This was the kind of big focus with the Watchdog setting up these blackouts, and using them as an opportunity to hunt down Inhumans. I did the kind of semi,
while publicly blaming it on the Inhumans or framing them for it. Yeah.
did you like the kind of like semi twist at the end where you find out that like news reporter or whatever that was kind of like pushing that crusade against them, but kind of coming off as neutral, but like, oh, the Inhumans are doing this now or something. And like you could see it kind of as a like, gentle push in that direction. Then you find out that she's
full on evil. Hello?
On the phone. Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
She has a little conversation on the phone with one of the groups, and then she talks to somebody in her house, and it pans around, and you see one of the like carbonized people, like the people that that were exposed to the fish oil with the Terrigen mist or whatever, and were fossilized because they didn't have Inhuman DNA.
Right.
I thought that was kind of an interesting twist because it made me like, oh, that bitch, you know, like I got like, oh, you're screwing things up, you know, you get all kind of invested in this, like you can see kind of where her motivations are and how she's just going to be like a sticky thorn in their side.
Oh yeah, definitely. So we got more of like the big picture of like what our plot lines are going forward. We got like, I guess this ghost stuff happening and Ghost Rider. And then on the other side, we have more drama involving the Inhumans and the Watchdogs, like really stirring that pot. So I think this episode gave us a clearer sense of where we're going this season. Definitely pretty exciting stuff. I'm excited to see what happens next. I can't wait for next episode. It's been a solid season so far.
What did you think about the kind of new fragility of Daisy, where it's like
I don't think
last season she seemed to be kind of like going all out, you know, and like she had a few moments where she was sickly and stuff.
It's not new fragility at all. It's not at all. It's already been established that her powers will break her bones. S.H.I.E.L.D. just gave her...
But now it's like she does anything and she's frail.
Yeah. S.H.I.E.L.D. just gave her these gauntlets like last season or so, which helped her not use her powers without... But now she's not wearing... She doesn't have them. She's not wearing them because she's on the run, I guess, from S.H.I.E.L.D., which still hasn't really...
It just seemed that like before she even got her gauntlets, it was only under like extreme stress that she would like cause a fracture.
Right.
Like it was when she overdid her powers, whereas like how she broke her arm in this episode was like she barely used her powers, you know?
Yeah, I noticed.
It was a very small thing. It's like they kind of...
Again, what's happening is she's been using her powers, like trying to do it sparingly since the beginning of the season, and it's become more and more apparent that every time she uses her powers, she injures herself. So now she's at a point where even something like that is just gonna hurt. It's gonna break bones and hurt more badly than it did before because she's already weakened from previously using her powers. So it's just gonna get worse and worse to a point where even the smallest thing she does is probably gonna cause her immense pain.
I like consequences for power, but it feels like they kind of like stepped it up a little too fast.
Yeah.
Like they kind of like had her just going like crazy with it last season.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like shaking down the whole shield hanger, you know? And then like now she's like one little energy burst and she's like, oh, my arm's broken. It's a very quick shift. And I know what they're doing is they're trying to reel her back in.
Right.
They kind of were showing like, you know, this is what like a fully powered Quake can do. And now they're trying to kind of reel her back in to make her so that, you know, they can have more of a sense of danger for her circumstances. Whereas before she was like fighting with Hive and stuff, you know, like, she can't like do that anymore. You know, she doesn't have that kind of advantage anymore.
Right.
They're putting the limits on her, which is a good thing. It just feels like they ramped it up a little bit too fast. But, yeah, I mean, I like the kind of friendship she's developing with, Ghost Rider now. I like that storyline. I really like the actor playing Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I love it. Ghost Rider is perfect in this series. It's awesome. And I love the storyline that they have with him and Daisy. It's great. Like I said, this season so far has been solid. It's definitely, this is just solid, good stuff. So yeah, I'm very happy with S.H.I.E.L.D. so far.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll be talking about this more throughout the next couple of weeks, but, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I think continues to be, my favorite weekly superhero show.
Right.
So we're going to start talking about the DC side of the superhero shows now. We're going to be talking about Supergirl, The Flash, a little bit about Arrow. So, let's kick off with Supergirl. So the big thing with Supergirl this week, Superman, and I gotta tell you, they got it perfect. they did a better Superman than the movies certainly did. So, like the two movies Zack Snyder put out. Because, like this Superman isn't like all brooding and stuff. This Which is funny because the only role I knew him in before this, he was like very brooding.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've ever seen this actor in anything before ever.
He was in the Teen Wolf TV series, and he played like a very brooding character with like he always had like the 5 o'clock shadow, like.
So
he was like a very like angel-esque character,
So what a huge contrast then, huh? To see him like.
Yeah, very different in his portrayal of Superman, which is interesting and much appreciated. I didn't dislike the movie portrayal as much as a lot of people did. I liked him kind of as this like contemplative, like really powerful figure, but it is very nice that the TV series is taking a completely different approach.
Yeah.
We already have enough brooding with Arrow.
Yeah, exactly. Superman traditionally isn't a brooding hero. That's Batman's job to brood.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely enjoying him.
They flat out name check Gotham City in this. Like,
yeah,
like the one
great.
guy said, we're moving to Gotham. I sit there waiting for like 5 seasons of Arrow and whatever, Flash and everything for somebody to even like name check Gotham City. Nope, never happened. One season and one episode into Supergirl, Gotham City gets mentioned. And Superman, like actual Superman's in the episode. So I'm thinking, is DC like really loosening up on their restrictions now? Would it be possible to get like Batman on Arrow?
I think we're gonna get Batman. I think we'll get Batman or more references to Batman at the very least. Maybe they'll do something different and do like Batgirl or something because it's Supergirl and because that's where they put more of their focus. But I think we're gonna get a much deeper connection to the kind of goings on of Gotham.
I know
in Supergirl because it's in a different dimension from the other shows.
I know a lot of people have been hoping for Nightwing to make an appearance on Arrow at some point. I know there was like rumors a couple years ago of that happening. They kind of got quashed. I mean, heck, there was one episode, season 2 of Arrow. They flat out name checked Bloodhaven on Arrow, which is Nightwing's city. And so it's like, so people thought like it was really going to happen. And then no, nothing happened.
I think that would make a lot of sense on Supergirl, actually, to have like Nightwing come into town or something. I think that would really work. And they could really reference, because I mean, if you're going to talk about Batman, then the other superhero that's most connected to him is Superman. So you're going to talk about the other kind of stuff going on between, characters in the Gotham area of DC, then Supergirl's where it's going to make most sense for that to happen. So, I think the fact that that Supergirl is in like a different world or a different universe than the rest of the shows makes it a little bit more plausible that this is going to happen.
Right.
Because they can kind of pull that off. I think that they've established so much of an idea of like basically turning Arrow into the Batman of the Arrowverse, Look, it would be kind of weird for them to bring Batman in now.
I've long held
But to bring him in on Supergirl, I think makes sense.
I've long held that Arrow was secretly supposed to be a Batman TV series. Just that they just couldn't use the character because back when Arrow premiered, DC was much more tightly protective of like their premier heroes, to a point like I remember they were trying to get Batman to appear on Smallville for like years, and then that never ended up happening just because they couldn't work it out with DC.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's funny because at the same time then Gotham happens and it's totally fine, I guess. I mean, I don't pretend to understand.
We still don't see Batman in Gotham.
That's true. We see Bruce Wayne as a child, so I guess that's kind of like
they don't have an issue with Batman stuff, just with Batman himself.
Yeah,
because I mean, like we got Ra's al Ghul on Arrow, so that's that's Arrow's pretty heavy Batman territory.
Arrow's full of Batman. Like half of the villains in the first season of Arrow were Batman villains. So it's like where it became quickly, it's like, oh, does Green Arrow really have a rogues gallery? No, he has Batman's villains.
they even showed Harley Quinn from behind in Arrow.
Yeah.
At one point when they were setting up the Suicide Squad stuff. I like Batman showing up in Supergirl. I say like as in like I think that's a strong possibility that we'll see either him or somebody else that's big in the Gotham side of the DC universe. So it'll be like him or like Barbara Gordon or Nightwing or something along those lines. I think we're definitely going to see in Supergirl at some point. And because the shows are going to cross over, not just this season, but I'm sure they're going to cross over multiple times throughout their entire runs, I'm sure that we're going to see eventually at some point, if that character shows up on Supergirl, then there's a good chance that they'll show up in one of the crossovers at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
Which would be really cool. It would be cool to see Arrow meet Batman and have like maybe a little joke about the similarities or something between the characters.
So
that'd be kind of like a fun kind of meta way.
That was a fun premiere for Supergirl. We also got other big things. They confirmed Lex Luthor is a person who exists. Like we suspected.
He's in jail.
He's in jail because Superman. We suspected that there was a Lex Luthor. It was never confirmed. He was never even name checked in the entire first season of Supergirl. Like the name Luthor in any context was never mentioned. But I mean, you kind of figure, you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, you have to figure he's there, right? Jimmy Olsen's there. They name checked like Lois Lane, all these classic Superman characters existing. So you're like, well, does Lex Luthor exist? Well, now we have our answer. Yes, he's real, and he has a sister. And in this universe, he has a sister, something he's never had before in pop culture that I know about. I don't think anybody.
He did in Smallville. The same character had like a slightly different name. It was using like a nickname, like shortened for the same character. I guess it is a character in the comics, but it's always kind of like been off of if she's his sister or if she's just kind of somehow connected to the Luthor family in some other way.
Oh, okay.
So like through different interpretations, she's played different roles, but in Smallville and this, I think she's both been a sister in both of those. But like, I think in both of them, it was like adopted.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. So, I mean, that was pretty cool. The episode, it's a pretty standard episode of Supergirl, aside from Superman guest starring. The big thing is that at the end of the episode, when you think Superman's just gonna fly back to Metropolis and kind of get out of the way, he kind of expresses his desire to stick around and help out, meaning that at least for the time being, he's going to have a bigger presence or role in this season than he did last season.
Yeah. It's similar to the case of Kid Flash on The Flash.
Yeah.
They're not going to make that costume and not use it.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh, well, we made this for one episode. It's done. Yeah. Speaking of Flash.
Throw it in the incinerator.
Speaking of Flash, this one was an interesting episode. Paradox. This was a really cool episode because this picks up from the ending of the last episode where Barry, after Barry gets back to the present the way he remembered it, before he changed everything. Barry's initial reaction is like, well, he fixed it. It's fixed. But then he realizes very quickly, it doesn't take long. He realizes it's not exactly fixed. Stuff is messed up. And I like the fact that I like the fact that it's not like these big sweeping things. It's not like Iris has two heads now in this universe, and and like and her dad is like a hobo living in the sewer, and Barry's, oh, I messed up. No, it's that these characters who Barry left and were like very, I would say, we're very happy, content people when Barry left them. He comes back and now they're broken.
And those seem to be people with a direct tie to Barry seem to be the ones most likely to have a change.
Yeah.
In this timeline.
Yeah.
Which is realistic, because if things are almost exactly the same, but even just slightly off where it affects, Barry's growth as a character, then that's going to be more likely to kind of play into the people that are closest to him.
Yeah, the people, so the further out he goes, there's not going to be that much changes. Apparently Diggle has a son instead of a daughter now.
Which is interesting, because that ties directly into what we saw in the Legends of Tomorrow last season.
Yeah, exactly.
With the future with Diggle's son taking the arrow mantle.
Because Barry visits Felicity to vent, and Felicity asks Barry if he notices anything different about her or about them, and Barry looks and he confirms like everything with Arrow is the same except for the fact Diggle now has a son instead of a daughter.
Yeah. The other big kind of change, which is really sad, and is that Cisco lost his brother.
Yeah, Cisco.
In this reality.
Again, this plays into the fact that, Barry comes back and everybody is broken. Iris and her father are not speaking to each other. We learn that this is the fallout from Iris learning that her mother was alive and her dad kind of keeping it from her, which in the previous timeline, they managed to work it out before it became before it created a big rift between them. And in this timeline, apparently that didn't happen. So the rift was created. And so immediately, that's the first thing Barry notices. Then Barry noticed that Cisco is not himself. Cisco is like very, very dour, and Cisco especially seems to be angry at Barry. Since Barry doesn't know what's going on in this timeline, he can't figure it out. He can't figure out why anything's happening, why these people are just suddenly like this, and it's eating him up inside, because and Barry tries in his own like goofy way. He tries to fix it, he tries to get everybody together, have them talk out their issues. Unfortunately, Barry's the Flash. He's good at taking out supervillains. He is not a counselor. He is not a therapist. So he can't fix people's personal problems that well. So it's kind of sad to see him try, and obviously he's failing at it, because and you see Barry really running up to encountering these problems that he just can't fix. He can't fix it by running around and being fast,
But then he decides that he can.
I know, right? But then he decides he could just go back in time and fix the timeline again, and thankfully Earth 3 Flash, Jay Garrick pulls him out of the Speed Force and basically sits him out.
That was really cool. I like how he just ripped him out of the Speed Force.
Yeah, that was really awesome. That was so cool. I was so happy to see Jay Garrick. And Jay Garrick basically sits his ass down and says, "Nope, you can't just do that. No, I mean, because you'll just fuck something else up, basically." Yeah. I mean, and I was thought when Barry decides he could just run back, I thought, how stupid can you be? Like literally, you did this once and you messed everything up. Even trying to fix it still messed some things up. And you're going to try and go back and play with it some more. It's like,
I think it would have been funny to see him go back a few more times and see like 20 flashes in his childhood home.
I know.
Like one wait, nodding to the other one. No, don't. You screwed this up last time. And everyone going, oh, okay, disappearing, and then
Yeah.
another Flash like comes in and goes, why did you stop him? You were.
Our Flash comes in with
the house is just filled with the house is just filled with Flashes.
Our Flash comes in with the pizza. Says, anybody wants a pizza? I ordered a pizza for 20.
That would have been pretty funny, but
very funny. But
Jay Garrett stops that from happening and convinces Barry to just kind of like let things be, which is really fucked up, especially for Cisco.
It is. But yeah, because Barry has to come to terms with, like, I guess this is reality now. I mean, you fucked it up, Barry, and you can't just hit reset. It's not a video game. You can't just hit reset every time you mess up, which was basically the lesson. It's like you just gotta live with the consequences of your actions and move forward with it. And that's what Barry realizes he has to do. And part of what Cisco is so mad at Barry is because his brother died, and Cisco's grand idea is that Barry can travel through time, so why doesn't Barry just use his time travel, save his brother, and then it'd be fine? But Barry kept refusing to do that, and so Cisco got resentful, got angry at Barry because he just got this like, oh well, this horrible thing happened to me. Barry can fix it, but he won't because I guess he doesn't want to be a good friend, Yeah. And that's where Cisco's coming from. And Barry's like trying to explain, yeah, but if I do that, then they might fuck somebody else's life up pretty bad. And then, what then? Can you live with that?
So Cisco eventually finally kind of comes around, ends up saving Barry when Barry is off fighting both the rival and Alchemy.
Dr. Alchemy, basically this mysterious figure who kind of comes out of nowhere. Basically he finds Edward Claris in this reality and gives him the powers and memories of the rival from the previous timeline that Barry created, which is interesting.
And in doing so, leaves like a husk behind or something.
Yeah, I guess
his old self, I guess.
Yeah, leaves a husk behind of his old self. So Barry comes face to face once again with the rival, which completely catches Barry off guard because that was a different timeline. So it seems like Dr. Alchemy has the ability to restore people to what they were in the previous timeline Barry created.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting. It's interesting how, like, Dr. Alchemy even freaking knows about that in the first place. I mean, who is this guy?
I wonder what it is, because we know that this season we're supposed to have Savitar, who's another big speedster villain.
Yeah.
In this season. So I'm wondering maybe if, just like how Jay Garrett was watching Barry, maybe Savitar was able to observe things as well. And that's how he has information, because they might be working together if they're both villains in the season. Yeah. We also know that Mirror Master is supposed to be in this season, and that they already seem to have played with that in the last episode, with alchemy being written on the mirror.
Yeah.
Of the rival in this new version of Earth. But so there's ways that can all tie together that we're already kind of seeing, like a few kind of puzzle pieces that are kind of fitting. But it'll be interesting to see how that all connects as the season moves forward. Yeah. And if they end up taking like a huge logic leap, like they tend to do every season, or if they kind of like stick the landing,
I think they'll take a huge logic leap. I don't know. I mean, last season they came up with like time remnants, which makes zero sense and just like hurts your head to think about it. Like they even had like characters comment on it, and like nobody on the show could even adequately explain it. And when they attempted to, they just ended up just coming to a conclusion that they don't understand and dismissing it. And I'm like, yep, that's because it's kind of BS that even the writers don't know.
And then you get, of course, then they try to back it up with a scientific reason, and because the Flash doesn't know basic science. because the Flash freezes laser beams and
yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the things that like drives me crazy about the show. It's a fun show. They got great ideas. It, you know, like the stuff they do is like really great, and then they just like put bullshit in the middle of it, and it kind of like makes you like it takes you out of the show when that happens, because you know I don't want to be
the polarity of Christmas bombs.
Yeah, the polarity of Christmas bombs are like time. I don't want to be thinking about like how the hell time remnants work. That just pulls me out of the show. Thank you, writers. Come up with something that makes sense like the first time you hear it, so that you don't have to like sit there and think about it and like get pulled out of the show.
Yeah. See, if you need to explain something, then it needs to make sense when you do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like you could do something that people go like, what the fuck? How does that make any sense? And then explain it and you go, oh, or something. Yeah. But you can't go, what the fuck? How does that make sense? And then explain it and have the person go, what? That makes even less sense.
Exactly.
But despite that, Flash continues to just be a really fun show. And so, next week's episode is going to be Kevin Smith's, episode. He's doing one of Supergirl as well.
Oh, nice.
This season. But this is going to be Kevin Smith's episode next week, which is, from the previews, looks like it's going to, feature some more parallel world visitors, not just Jay Garrett.
looking forward to it.
So that's going to be cool. One last thing I want to talk about with the Flash is somehow, because of what Barry did, a dark wizard was allowed to infiltrate the police offices as a forensic scientist.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that guy's
Draco Malfoy.
Yeah, that guy comes off as like a snotty like jerk. Barry doesn't like him. He doesn't like Barry. He reveals at the end he doesn't like Barry because he doesn't trust him. After finding out Barry stole some CSI work, some samples from him. So we'll see where that goes. Interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he fits into the whole thing. But that is the Flash. I'm going to touch base a little bit on Arrow. I'm not going to go into full details because Will hasn't watched the first 2 episodes yet of it. But they're finally starting to kind of address the whole, his whole team left him aspect of last season.
Yeah, his whole team except for Felicity.
Without spoiling anything, we got to see kind of what Diggle's up to.
Yeah, his whole team.
Yeah, we got to see what
leaving him except for Felicity, wwho defiantly proclaimed, "I'm not going anywhere." Yeah, I still remember.
to all of our misery.
yeah.
But we got to see a little bit of Diggle. We got to see kind of some new people that he's going to be working with, that the Arrow's going to be working with. One kind of interesting one that's about all I can say without spoiling something. And, in addition to that, we're getting kind of glimpses at Prometheus now, who we saw just very briefly in the first episode of the next season. So we're kind of getting in that direction. I also want to say that I think they're actually kind of doing Felicity right this season.
Interesting.
Especially like in this episode more so. That doesn't mean all's forgiven. No. I still like instantly start like grinding my teeth the second she pops up on screen. But like they're kind of putting her back in the role she was in before. They're putting her back in like a Cisco-like role. As being kind of like, she'll make like a corny joke or something, and then she's kind of sticks to her furious typing hacking abilities.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're kind of putting her back in that support role like they had, with Cisco again. Still giving maybe a little bit too much, time and moral high ground to her, which is a little frustrating, but I definitely feel like they maybe learned a little bit from last season.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll kind of just keep this up and push her more into the background and kind of let that kind of die away.
Yeah.
All that animosity that they generated. So. But that's about all I'm going to say about Arrow. So let's move on now. Let's talk about Westworld. Yes. So I got to say right up front, I have an insane theory that immediately after like thinking it through, I started seeing it popping up all over the internet. Other people had the same theory.
Go ahead.
Which is the new cowboy that we see coming in, not a host, but a player that we see coming in episode 2 is the Man in Black. Yeah,
what?
that he's the Man in Black. That this is like 2 different time periods. That this park's been around, and the Man in Black said he's been coming there for 30 years. Huge. If that's true, that is crazy. Awesome.
That is crazy.
Because it fits. Yeah. It fits so well. Because like, especially the moment in which he has to pick between the white hat
and the dark hat, and he picks the white hat. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know that, if this theory is true, then he eventually grows tired of that and gets the black hat.
That's true because, we never see him in the context of what's going on with the current characters, the people running the park. And also they can play with it because the park is something that is out of time. It's the Old West, and it's all the same characters, actors and stuff. The only thing, so we don't know like how long the park has been operating in the way it currently is.
I've heard 30 years mentioned on like 2 occasions. So the Man in Black said that he'd been coming here for 30 years. And also there was a point where they said, one of the people in the staff that works behind the scenes said something about they haven't had an incident in 30 years.
That's true, yeah.
So that implies something happened 30 years ago. Because they're still even existing, it probably wasn't super significant, like a huge massacre. Maybe like a guest died, like a singular guest died, or some other kind of traumatic event happened, I'm wondering, maybe it's a traumatic event that happened to the Man in Black that set him in this direction. Maybe one of the robots kind of somewhat malfunctioned and did something, maybe didn't kill anybody, but did something that kind of scarred him a bit.
Maybe.
And kind of turned him into who he is now. But we don't know, but it's really interesting. There's a lot of clues that point to this hint that with him kind of like noticing the woman at the end of the episode, he notices the Rachel McAdams character.
Rachel McAdams?
And no, not Rachel McAdams. God, what's her name? I can't think of the actress's name.
You know what? I can't either.
Who was in the first episode? Who
I know,
kind of like the focus.
Regardless of her name, I know who exactly you're talking about. So
yeah, where he picks up the thing she drops, and approaches her
instead of,
which is something that we've seen happen twice in the first episode. Once with the robot, once with the other host, and then also the Man in Black.
Yep, also the Man in Black. So yeah, the Man in Black seems to have a fixation on her. For whatever reason, it's not clear. And also, you guys, even, he's looking for like a deeper level to the park. But you still don't know what his motivations. His motivations still aren't clear as to why he's doing, or even what his goal is. His goal still isn't clear. You just know that there might be this other level to the park and that he's looking for it, but you don't know why. You don't know what that is, what that entails, or why he's looking for it.
About a labyrinth. One of the characters said something about a labyrinth, or
yeah, but we don't know. We don't know if that's an allegory or what.
Yeah, we have no idea what that is. Yeah, that's just another hint related to everything else that's going on there. But yeah, this is continuing to be really good. I think that the moment in which I realized that this could be a connection, I started seeing other people talking about it. That's kind of that moment where I'm like, okay, this show is the next water cooler show. Because people are already going like digging deep and like looking for scraps and researching, scenes and stuff. That's already happening.
The great thing about the show is it's put together in such a way to where like there are like there's some genuine stuff there. There's some genuine stuff. There's some misdirection, but there's also like, it's also set up in a way like you can read into pretty much anything happening in the show and draw your own conclusions based on it. Like literally. There's
a lot of openings. Yeah. There's a lot of like, loose threads that you can pull on.
Exactly. Like I heard someone theorize, that one engineer, who works for the park is actually a host, and it's like,
the guy from the Hunger Games?
Yeah. I heard somebody like theorize that.
Could be. That would be, I think that there's a very good chance that one of the people that we see in the staff is actually a host.
Yep. I
could totally see that playing into a story.
We also got Dandy Newton's host character. She kind of becomes self-aware, like she has memories of like this violent past, this violent thing happening to her in the past, and it kind of messes with her routine. They bring her back, try to figure out what's wrong with her. They can't figure out what's wrong with her, but yet it still keeps happening. She has these memories. And then you get to this point where they shut her down. And I think, and I think like they're going to open her up and they're going to take a look at,
they're servicing her basically.
Yeah, they're servicing her, trying to fix her, trying to figure out what's wrong and put her back into service. And she wakes up in the middle of this. She reactivates, which she isn't supposed to do, And
the two people working on her just about shit bricks.
Yeah, bricks. And so she's like wandering around in the facility. She doesn't know what's going on. She's erratic. She grabs like a scalpel, and it's like this very frightening, very tense scene, because it's like, okay, this is crazy. This is like really the first thing of like these things are definitely becoming self-aware in a way that nobody has seen coming. And this is like,
and you can see the kind of like, they don't want to admit that they didn't really make a mistake, but they think they did. And now they're scared that they're going to like face repercussions for making a mistake. So they're not sharing information. So you can see how a problem can be perpetuated by people not reporting and not sharing information properly about what's actually happening.
Right, exactly.
So they kind of set the seeds for that, like, well, how can something like this happen? Because somebody would, say, hey, this is something fucked up. Let's shut this down and figure this out. Well, this shows like, okay, well, somebody clearly didn't because they thought that they made a mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
And they didn't want to be face the repercussions of a mistake that they didn't actually make. But it's crazy. I love the scene when she goes into the building where they build all of the, and they service the other ones, and you kind of see it like through a different lens. Like you see it kind of through her horror.
Yeah,
and basically seeing dead bodies piled up all over the place.
Dead bodies of people that like she knows even, that she interacts with on a daily basis. Her reaction is like exactly like if you walked into a room and just saw piled corpses of like everybody in your life that you know. It's like how freaking horrifying would that be? And that's what she's experiencing. Because right now she has no conception that she isn't real or that they weren't ever real. She has no conception of what's actually happening. And so it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just several amazing scenes throughout. I've heard a lot of people saying that they actually like this episode more than the first one. I don't know if I'd agree with that. I think the first episode, just certain things that the first episode set up, like the way they used the flies and stuff, was just brilliant. In a way that like this episode was really good, and the seeds it's setting up for this potential, if this theory is true about the Man in Black, is just nuts. But overall, I think I still prefer the first episode. What do you think?
I think I don't know. I'm not going to compare them. I think they're both this is an excellent show. They're both excellent.
It is, definitely. It's a very good show. So excited about it. I'm glad that this show has become like the new water cooler show.
Definitely.
Like so quickly too.
Definitely. Awesome.
This is like the kind of like water cooler talk we didn't hear until like Lost hit like episode 4.
Yeah, till Lost.
That's kind of when like Lost became the water cooler show.
So now it's cool because now everybody has like their own theories about what's actually going on, this and that, and these theories may be correct, they may not be correct. It's certainly fun. Half the fun is watching the show with these theories in mind and seeing which ones were actually accurate, which people's ideas were actually accurate or close to accurate, which ones were way off the mark. Like that's part of the fun too.
So here's my groan-worthy moment, I'll say, is that, so we have a show about an amusement park, and it's gonna become a wild ride.
Yeah. So as I was talking, I think my iPhone confused me saying theory with Siri, because Siri came on, and this is apparently what my iPhone heard me saying just now. I quote, "Hey Siri, is my baby maybe correct?" And then it's an interesting question. You know, speaking of technology becoming self-aware, yeah, I think my iPhone is now becoming self-aware, just like the hosts in the show.
just not with very good hearing.
Yeah. Interesting.
That kind of brings our discussion for the week to an end.
All right.
So, thank you everybody for listening. You can reach me at Tyson Gifford on Twitter. You can reach Will at Voxel Hero. Check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, as well as our site, TVEnthusiast.com. You can subscribe to the podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Cast. And the entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel, or you can just check it out on our site, TVEnthusiast.com. So thank you everybody for listening. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@TVEnthusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast for more coverage of all of